Over the past couple of days, there have been a lot of stories and mixed messages about farmers having to dump milk. So, in case you're wondering, it's not a really great thing to do. Farmers are really proud of the work they do and the nutrition they provide to people. They don't want to see that wasted. Of course, the question comes to why they're doing it. Well, first off, it doesn't have anything to do with price. Milk typically has a fixed price coming from the farm depending upon what it's used for. Whether it's a big order or a small one, whether it's today or the 1st of March, has to do with the shelf life. Now, of course, milk doesn't last forever, and this is especially true of raw, unpasteurized milk. It's required to be picked up from a farm within, say, 72 hours, and then you have to process it within a day or two. You just can't sit there and wait. The third challenge farmers have is storage. It's kind of required to be picked up within 72 hours, but most farms have only 48 hours worth of milk storage on a farm. It's because milk is usually picked up every 48 hours. It'd be an extra cost that would have to be accounted for. Now, the same is true of milk tanker trucks. There aren't enough milk trucks to pick up every farm every 48 hours, but there isn't really a fleet waiting for more. That'd be an extra cost that no shipper wants to pay. So once the milk is picked up, it has to be unloaded within the day. Then you go to milk processors, and they're having some problems. Before this started, demand for milk was pretty constant. Companies like Tim Hortons would need a pretty steady amount of cream week to week. Stores would need a pretty steady amount of 2% milk. Processors would be able to adapt to small increases or decreases. But what's happened over the last few weeks is nothing short of an absolute shock to the system. Plus, many farmers are working and stores are working with new rules of physical distancing for employees to make sure they stay healthy and operating. Now, figures out of the United States show increases through retail of 53% milk, 84% in cheese, and 127% for butter. All the while, food service demand has collapsed. Keep in mind that food service wants buckets of sour cream, not tubs, or 10-pound bags of shredded cheese, not really packets. Think Even Cream, where a company like Tim Hortons uses a big bag of cream through a Sure-Shot machine, where you want, say, 50 milliliters at a time. Those processing lines can't change overnight. It takes millions of new equipment and packaging to convert them. So you've got retail lines that can't keep up, while food service lines are completely backed up or shut down. Having processing lines just sitting, waiting for the occasion would be another cost that no one wants to cover. Could have been passed on to consumers that typically don't want to pay more than they have to. Then finally, you've got milk retail logistics. If it took 2 truckloads a day to keep a grocery store stocked in February, all the extra demand means it now might take 3 or 4 trucks. That's more trucks and more drivers. Unfortunately, all that combined means something has to break. In the milk business, some raw milk has nowhere to go. So a few hundred farms out of, say, a few thousand have to dump 2 days worth of production. The next question is, what about food banks? And that's a good question. But we run into the challenge of it being raw milk and unpasteurized. A food bank can do nothing with a 4,000-liter tank at its back door. A food bank isn't a processor. So if anyone knows of an available line that can pasteurize, process, and package milk, that would be great. But all of these lines are tied up filling orders for grocers, and food service lines aren't packaging in a usable form for food banks. So fortunately, as dairy farmers, they are donating a lot of milk to food banks, not because of the crisis, but because hundreds of farmers have done it for a very long time. They donated that milk last month, the month before that, and it's going to keep going on into the future. While farmers and milk producers can do better, the food chain can't evolve overnight. Struggles in the food chain are going to continue over the next several weeks. They're doing their best to cope, but the struggles are real. Solutions aren't very simple or cheap. They take a lot of work, but they'll eventually come. In the meantime, no matter where you are in the food chain, know how important it is. So, good luck, and that's what's going on with milk.